All right, I think we're ready to begin, everybody. Welcome to our March meeting. Happy March. Hopefully you're enjoying the milder weather out there today. Before we get into the agenda, I'll just share with everybody. Linda De Silva did contact Barb, and she has made the decision to resign from the committee. So she will be off the committee, and Barb is looking into the details on advertising her position in the meantime. So just so everybody knows that. 2.1 is the adoption of the agenda. Did anybody have anything to add to the agenda, or would we like to adopt it as is? Norm? Was
Yeah,
that to
I'd like something to add, if
okay.
Please. Just a general query on some update on transit.
Okay, and sorry, I missed. Did you say under new business?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll add that as 6.1, an update on transit. And Councillor Elmsley? Was that a motion to adopt or something to add?
Moved as printed.
Okay. So to accept the agenda as updated, moved by Councillor Elmsley, seconded by Norm. Thank you. And everybody all in favor. Wonderful. 2.3, we have the adoption of the minutes from our February meeting. Move to accept them by Elizabeth, second. Sonia, thank you, and all in favor. All right, moving right along through, we don't have any presentations or correspondence, so we'll move to, Elizabeth, yeah.
Because we've heard that Linda is resigning, should we not have a motion to accept her resignation with regrets under correspondence?
Yes. I think so.
So I would move that we accept her resignation with regrets.
Okay. So that's moved by Elizabeth, and a seconder. Councillor Elmsley, and all in favor. Thank you for that, Elizabeth.
No problem.
And then on to 5.1, which is Barb's update for us.
Thanks, Crystal. Not a lot to update. It's just been a couple of weeks since we met, but I will say that I did provide a presentation to Council at the Committee of Whole on March the 8th. And provided the two reports, our work plan and the update to the accessibility master plan, and it seemed to be received well, and it will go to council next Tuesday, Kathy, I think. Yep. Next Tuesday, March 22nd, for full approval, and thank you to Councillor Elmsley for his kind words. He certainly recognized the committee as very valuable members of Kawartha Lakes, and how thankful we are to have everyone volunteer their efforts for the city of Kawartha Lakes. And the one other thing that I've been updated with most recently is Jonathan from the planning department. He made contact with me, and he advised that they are going to be seeking members to a task force for the active transportation master plan. He is seeking individuals with varied abilities to participate on this particular task force that will go into next year. With meetings, and if anyone on this committee would be interested in applying, what I will do after the meeting is over today is send you the link to where you can apply to be a volunteer on the task force, and of course it will go through the typical interview process for members. I think they're looking for 16 or 17 individuals with an interest in participating. So I wanted to update you on that. And otherwise, I believe other matters can go under the other areas, such as public awareness, etc., as we go along. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. If there's any questions for Barb, we could take them. Otherwise, we'll move along to 5.2, public awareness, and I'll pass that to Elizabeth.
We don't have a lot to report at this time, other than the deadline for nominations for the awards is next Friday, the 25th. And then our group will be meeting to review all of the nominations, and then they go to council for approval or rejection. And then nominations who are successful will be notified, and we'll be presenting the awards in the first part of June. So I think that's all we have to report, but it isn't too late if you do have a group or an individual who's doing something outstanding in our city to break down barriers. You can nominate them, or if there is a business that has made a renovation to make their place more accessible, that can also fit a criteria. So I think that's all, Crystal.
Thank you. And Barb?
Yeah, just one more thing to add to that public awareness section was the public awareness in the media piece. Elizabeth,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It seems like it hasn't been that long. So last month we mentioned that we would be trying to highlight accessibility in our media. We mentioned last time about John Thurston, the Dunsford resident who was on the Canadian Wheelchair Paralympic team and brought home bronze. And this month we wanted to mention the Toyota's commercials that were running throughout the Olympics and Paralympics that was featuring the McKeever brothers. Brian McKeever is Canada's most decorated male Paralympian with 16 gold medals. And the Toyota commercial highlighted his Stargardt syndrome and visual impairment and what he was doing as an athlete. So it's quite amazing that Toyota chose to focus on a Canadian and B, a Canadian with a disability. So we think that that was quite newsworthy. And we encourage anyone that has seen something in the media about accessibility or disabilities to let us know.
Wonderful.
So that's it now.
Thank you for that, Elizabeth. And I like that new feature of just discussing or bringing up current things that are happening. Okay, we will move on to item 5.3, public spaces, and I will pass that to Andre.
Yes, thank you. We seem to have a few projects that are coming in right now, so we're looking at them. And one interesting one that was, we got a phone call from, I guess, Barb, that would be, he was the design team for 37 Adelaide. And they want to communicate with Barb and I was the author of the, I think it was the fourth submission, and they want to discuss, which is great. So it's great news that the design team is actually want to discuss the what we had written, and hopefully we'll be able to get some stuff resolved on that. So I believe we're having a meeting tomorrow on Friday. So a virtual meeting, but it'll be great. So all in all, there's seems to be a lot of new projects coming, and I would actually like to have some time and speak with Sonia sometime. Sonia, when you have some time, because I think you did work with Gigi with doing some methods of doing this faster. The method I use is it's taking too long.
Okay.
It's a long process and you see, I would like to be able to talk to you if we can look at this so we can make it a little bit faster.
Sure.
And better. If we can make it better, even better with that. So that's about all, unless Barb, you have some other comments.
Not at this point, Andre. We do have a couple of site plans that are, have come forward to us in January, February. And what I did for the first submission of those particular plans, there were a couple of developments in Lindsay, actually. One of them is a 6-story apartment building. The other is a subdivision. And what I did was I sent them the pre-consultation draft. And so I said, let's start with the comments that are part of the pre-consultation draft. And then when they go to second submission, then we'll have a closer look. And there may be more comments that we can provide specific to the particular site plan. So I dealt with it in that fashion, knowing that you weren't well at the time. And and thought that it might give them some insight or something to think about as they put their second submission through. Anyway, thank you.
So I think that's all, Crystal.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Oh, moving right along, 5.4, Councillor Elmsley.
Well, thank you. And like everyone else, I don't have a great deal to report. I will say that coming out of the pandemic, the health unit is starting to get back to its regular business. And I'm sure that everyone's seen their announcements about vaccine clinics and what's happening with those, and testing and the various other things related to the pandemic. But we are starting to move back to taking care of our regular core business and ramping up the programs that people are used to. So that is our focus. That's the focus of the health unit over the next period of time. They don't plan to forget about COVID. They still have people working on it and engaged in responding to the public. But we are trying to return to some sort of normalcy. Our committee of the whole meeting last week was largely taken up with reports from various committees of council. And it was an interesting session in seeing what everybody had been doing during the past year. And it was heartening to see that despite being shut down and lockdown, that most of the committees, almost all the committees, were still active and moving forward, as was ours. And they were reports that were well worthwhile reading. And if you go into the city website, I'm sure you can find those reports if you have an interest in any of them. Other than that, one of the things that's come forward as an issue and as something that has to be resolved is signage. And I think the impetus for this came when the entrance signs for Lindsay were basically destroyed. They were in very bad disrepair. And rather than leave them there, they were taken down. And of course, as soon as you take them down, everybody notices that they're gone. So there was a bit of a hue and cry over replacing those signs. There is a project underway to look at signage and come up with a program to standardize signs throughout the municipality. As you can imagine, everybody wants to have their say in it, and it's not an easy subject, and it's quite complex because we have so many municipalities, and within our larger municipality, And people in those hamlets and villages and towns and cities are all have their own ideas about what it should look like and how it should look. And I also understand that the communications department is looking at logos and other things. But I think we have to do something in a couple of places, one of them being Lindsay with the entrance signs, and probably Fenland Falls as part of wayfaring signage is included in the remake of the downtown. So I'm not sure what this group feels about signage and if there are any concerns or any input they would like to give. But if there is, you know, I would encourage you to send a note off to Barb or myself or both of us, and we'll make sure it gets to the right place and gets consideration. So with that said, unless people have specific questions, I really don't have much else. Thank you.
Thanks. Diane?
Just wondering if you can say again where the sign is. Are we talking about one sign?
No,
We're talking
we're
about
talking about signs. We're talking about parking signs. We're talking about
everything.
entrance signs. We're talking about wayfaring signs, you know. As you know, Diane, in Fenland Falls, one of the great questions we get from visitors is,
Where are the
where's the
falls?
falls? And there are no signs pointing out where the falls are, or if there are, they're very hard to find. So
Okay.
it's that kind of thing that we're looking at.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Barb?
One thing I will mention is within our design standards that the city's adopted through a management directive, there is like a suggestion of font size depending on the distance away from the sign that you are. So like basically sitting in the car driving, okay, if you're like 30 feet away from the sign, the font should be a certain height. And it should be displayed in such a way that there's not a lot of curvature to the letters, that it's easily read, that there's color contrasting involved. This is all described within the accessibility design standards that the city has adopted. So it might be something that each little hamlet might want to consider when they are designing their signs.
Thanks for that. That's helpful. Diane?
Yeah, and that reminds me too that I know during the transfer, when we had the trial buses, the buses that were going, whatever they called that whole system that were going from one town to the next. When we had that
transit.
Yes, rural transit. What a concept. The signs were not put on the sidewalks for pedestrians. They were for drivers and not for pedestrians. So pedestrians didn't know where to catch the bus for a while. I think they fixed it at some point. But anyway, I mean, I would hope that things like that would be from an accessibility point of view too, that we make sure we think about all the different people that need to see the signs, not just the drivers.
Andre?
I would just like to comment on what Barb was saying, is that the fact, you know, when you provide these type of accessibility features, it doesn't just help people that have a hard time reading. It helps everybody. And I think it's something that we have to start thinking, you know, everything that we're trying to do here, it helps everybody. And it'll be easier definitely for everybody when you're driving and you're going and you got to try to read, and these are making things easier. That's all I want to say.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Councillor Embassy? No. All right. Can we get a motion to approve reports 5.1 through 5.4? Norm, seconded by Diane, and all in favor. Wonderful. New or other business. So 6.1, we added an update on transit. Norm?
Yes, but like as transit is part of our mandate, I would like to see a full report from transit regarding where they stand, particularly recovery after the pandemic. And also we're in the fourth year or fifth year of the transit master plan. And basically an update from transit as to where we stand. Like there are lots of pots of money out there that have been announced from various levels of government regarding rural transit is one of them. And I'm wondering where we stand in that respect also. So basically, I'm thinking, can we get somebody from transit to come to the committee to give us a full update on the situation as it stands right now?
Councillor Elmsley?
Barb, did you want to talk to Rod Porter, or you want me to talk to Rod Porter and see if he could get something for us?
If you would, please, now, yes.
Sure. You know what? I did the wrong thing. I took myself off mute on my computer. My apologies. I can certainly reach out to Rod, and you'd like him to come to our next meeting or a meeting in the future, Norm? Or
I think that, like, as it is part of our mandate, is transit. I think we should get input somewhere along the line as to where the situation is.
yeah, no, like I'll reach out to him and I'll see if he's available to come to our next meeting so that you can ask your questions, you know.
Okay.
If that's what you would like me to do. Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. I think that would be helpful and a good chance for us to all get an update and maybe ask questions. Okay. Well, we zoomed through our agenda, I think probably because we met a couple weeks ago. Our next meeting is scheduled Wednesday, April 20th. And I believe that will be at 1:30. And that brings us right to the end.
Okay, that's one thing I wanted to discuss, Crystal, actually.
The next meeting, okay.
Yeah, like, does anyone have an issue with meeting at 2:30 in the future? Because, is that difficult? Norm has a problem with 1:30. So if we could meet at 2:30 in the afternoon on Wednesdays, generally our meetings are only an hour at the most in length. I think it would be wonderful because that way we can accommodate Norm's schedule.
Yeah, can we maybe just see a show of hands of who 2:30 does work for on Wednesdays? Looks like almost everyone.
Sounds
Gigi?
great. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I think everybody was in agreement for that. So yeah, so we can move them.
Okay, so then we'll change the website accordingly too. Like right now it's reading 1:30. So we'll change the website and we will move our meetings to 2:30 on the Wednesdays, right?
Yeah.
Third Wednesday of every
Third
month.
Wednesday, yeah. Third Wednesday of the month at 2:30,
Okay.
yeah.
And yeah, we'll keep the meeting dates are going to be the same. It's just your time is going to change until 2:30.
Until 2:30, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And then I think I saw Elizabeth's hand, but that might have been a motion to adjourn. Or did you have a comment, Elizabeth?
Well, I'll do the motion to adjourn, but first I had a comment and I was just going to suggest that unless we have more business than we had today, I would suggest that we go back to our idea that we don't host a meeting just for the sake that it's on the calendar. Seems like we're it's hard to get everybody together. And if you really don't have any business, then it's really hard to get people motivated to come to the next month's meeting.
Yeah, Diane?
I agree. On the other hand, if we weren't to get together for 2 months, then we wouldn't have had Norm's great suggestion to invite transportation. So I think sometimes just getting together kind of brings up new things. So I don't know. I'd rather have a short meeting than not meet for 2 months. That would be my feeling.
Yeah, and
I like short meetings though.
to add to that, if I may, Crystal,
Yeah.
we are mandated to have 6 meetings, okay, and we do recess during the summer. So, you know, I think that we're, like, I'm sorry I'm not bringing much to this meeting, but I think it's basically just because we were 2 weeks from the last one. And there was quite a bit of information shared at the last meeting. And now we are going to have a deputation at the following meeting. So that, just as you mentioned, Diane, it was good to have Norm bring that question up and to make requests to have Rod to come to the meeting and talk about transit updates.
But if we're not having a deputation and we have no meeting, it's just, I don't know. It just seems like we're wasting time when we have been struggling of late to get quorum. That it just, as I say, it's, I understand it's good to have short meetings, but if there's nothing to do and we're having a meeting for the sake of a meeting, that's a bit of a waste of everyone's resources.
Yeah, I think it's something we can be mindful of in the upcoming months too, and see, like, is this kind of a one-off because we kind of had struggled and just met 2 weeks ago, or is it something that we continue to run into month after month? Yeah, it's, as I agree, Elizabeth, as much as it's nice to get everyone together, Diane, as much as it's nice to have a short meeting, we also don't want to struggle to bring people together if we're not doing much. Hopefully next meeting, if we do get Rod to come, that'll be a good meeting and more information shared. Was there any other comments on that? No. All right, so we will move right along for our motion to adjourn. I know Elizabeth had made the motion. If Andre seconded it. All right. Well, it was nice to see everybody. So we'll see you April 20th at 2:30, and have a good month, a good rest of the week, and we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.